Right, good morning everybody, and welcome to our webinar on 5G R&D opportunities in the United Kingdom. My name's David Rayner. I'm from the Department for International Trade in the United Kingdom. We have a commercial department that look after international relations for businesses. I'm the Future Telecoms Trade and Investment Manager in that team. I have the responsibility for looking after all of the activities around investment, around trade, around how we connect up, around our future science and technology agenda. Today we have a number of very interesting speakers who are going to tell you about some of the opportunities in the UK. We're going to start off hearing from Simon Rowell, who is in the Department for Culture, Media and Sport. This department holds the telecoms agenda in the government and is responsible for investing in the government's telecoms diversification activities, and Simon will tell us more about the plans there. We'll then hear more about the actual plans in action from Dritan Kaleshi at the Digital Catapult. And then we'll move to some future-looking activities with Tom Kirkham from Innovate UK, which is the organisation which links academia and business in the UK. And then look at how businesses can actually engage in real opportunities in the UK with John Leake from one of the campuses in the UK where innovation and business meet at SciTech Daresbury. And then we'll be hearing a little bit more about some historical experiences of investing in the UK from one of our big telecoms investors from Europe, from Cellnex. Mick Goulding from Cellnex will be telling us about some of their opportunities around using 5G in small networks for ports and logistics. We are recording the session. Slides will be available to be shared at the end of the presentation. If you do have questions as we go along, could I ask that you put them into the chat box, please, and we'll come back to those at the end of the presentation in a panel format. So without any further comments from me, I'm going to hand over to Simon to progress on through the next slides to talk about the rest of the day. I think the next slide is a run through of the agenda, which I've just talked about. And so that will take us into the beginning of the presentation. So if you could keep scrolling down.
That's great. Thank you, David, for that, and pleasure to be here. My name is Simon Rowell. I head up the programme development for the UK Future Networks programme, which is run by DCMS. What I'm going to do is just give you a quick overview of what that programme looks like, the different components, and how we work with the market on that. Next slide, please. So what is the Future Networks programme? Well, as David mentioned, it's run by DCMS, which is the Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sport in the UK. And we have an objective to deliver telecoms R&D within the market. And this is around a number of interventions that I'll talk about a little bit more in a bit. The programme is made up of 3 different areas. So the current component of that is the Open Networks programme. And this is a fund of around £250 million. It's a new fund. It's something that we are building into the market now, and it's really focused on R&D and in diversifying the telecoms macro environment in the UK. So this is what we're working with at the moment. Up until now, we've had the 5G testbeds and trials programme. This was just under 150 million in funding, and that was really focused on just 5G user cases and how we can encourage adoption in key sectors. And then finally, we have the Shared Outcomes Fund, which is up to around 8 million. This is really focused on 2 areas, the main one being DCIA, which is the Digital Connectivity Infrastructure Accelerator. These are our interventions in helping local authorities and regions within the UK develop their 5G and future telecoms networks and provide innovation to their local markets. We then also have the fibre in the water component, which is being formed at the moment, and this is the ability to provide fibre networks in waterways and underground cavities in the UK. So those are our 3 components of the Future Networks programme that we are developing right now. Next slide, please. So just to go into a little bit more detail on open networks. So really the focus is diversification. It's making sure that we can provide the underlying technologies needed to achieve an open network in the UK. And really it was formed to address the market failures that we have, and also to not be dependent on any one component in that market or any one provider. And it has three main objectives. The first is being to accelerate the open interface products. So to make sure that products in the market is truly interoperable, i.e. they work with each other, there are common standards, and we can innovate obviously more effectively because of that. The second component is to incentivize and de-risk deployment. So it's basically there to encourage R&D players, both within the UK and overseas, to provide those opportunities where we want to deploy open network solutions. And then the third component is to really target those international players that have that specific R&D element that we could certainly benefit from a UK perspective. And I've got a slide on how we work with our international partners on this. And of course, our European partners are going to be a big component of the success of this. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of background on the interventions and how they work. So effectively, the main objective is to achieve that supply chain diversification. We know supply chains are broken in many parts of the world at the moment. We know that there are areas of expertise in different parts of the world. And the UK's recognised that we need to bring more of that to the UK and have an independent ecosystem around that, very much like our European partners, very much like our global partners as well. And to do that, we have to achieve a number of things. We have 4 strategic themes that we need to achieve to gain those, or to increase the number of interventions in the market. The first one being accelerated maturity. So this is really the design stage. It's basically funding or co-funding that R&D that's happening, making sure that potential vendors from the UK and in our global markets can develop the R&D that they need to be able to build those advanced innovations and networks. And we have a number of strengths in the UK already. We have great semiconductor R&D going on. Obviously, we produced ARM, which is a big global player in the semiconductor area. We have big developments in power efficiency and software development, and certainly a large AI ecosystem being built. And all this obviously is part of the broader telecoms ecosystem. One part is related to the other, and we've got to make sure that our R&D is as effective in all these areas to make this all work together. We then want to build that ecosystem. So we've created something called the United Kingdom's Telecoms Innovation Network, otherwise known as UKTIN. It's basically an open competition where the market can go to find direction, to find out more about how they can get involved in R&D in the UK, how they can be part of this ecosystem. And it should really be one of the points of call for our European partners who want to work with us on this. The third part is that we have to facilitate demonstration and areas where people can actually achieve the production of the R&D. So these are very much, design facilities where people can come up with the products, with the interventions, the market products that people want to provide, and providing that secure environment to develop that. It also provides the ability to demonstrate. So when these products are built, they can demonstrate it to the wider market. So it's a showcase. It's the ability to showcase what we can do. And then finally, driving adoption. We've got to make sure that once this R&D is developed through to product, we can actually drive adoption in the market. So there's a big area of the program that is around how we can push this out, to make sure vendors, incumbents, other operators are aware of the technology innovations being created, and can actually use them and work with them. Next slide, please. So more specifically on our international collaboration. So as I mentioned, the UK is very focused on building these networks with R&D partners and centres around the world. And we've got 3 main areas at the moment that we're focused on. There are more coming. They're in the embryonic stage, so I'm not going to talk about them on this webinar here. But we've done a lot of work with Japan. This is well advanced. We are building joint R&D interventions with them around Open RAN products. It's in its early stages, but we're definitely advanced in our collaboration with them as a joint partner. With South Korea, we're more advanced. We have actually joint products being built at the moment for the market, and this is really a good sort of showcase of how we can work with international organisations. And then from a European perspective, we have something called the Celtic Next Fund, and this is managed through our UK partner, UKRI. And this is very much to provide funding for European players, SMEs, partners who want to work with us on R&D. And this would probably be more relevant to the people on the call here. If there is interest in working with the UK, we are open for business. We want to talk to our European friends and partners, certainly around SMEs and R&D collaboration, and would really strongly encourage innovators to be part of this. And clearly that is probably one of the strongest messages I want to give today. Next slide, please. So how can you work with us? These slides are going to be available for everyone. I know that URL is a little bit long-winded, but it will point you towards our prospectus, which goes into a lot more detail on some of the things I've spoken about. It will talk a lot more about the interventions that we've done already. But if you do have specific questions as well, please use the email here. It goes direct to our team, and we can answer any specific questions you might have. So yes, we would certainly look forward to hearing from everyone, and look forward to working with you. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Simon. So now I'm going to pass straight over to DITIN.
David, sorry, it's Mick Goulding here. Apologies, and sorry for interrupting everyone. I was meant to be presenting later. I've just had a very urgent call, an emergency. I'm going to have to drop off. I'm really, really sorry. Apologies. I've got to go right away then.
Okay, Mick, my apologies to our guests. I will attempt to present some of Mick's slides as we go through later in the presentation. So handing over now to DITIN at the Digital Catapult to talk more about the real applications of some of the activities that Simon has introduced. To DITIN. And you need to unmute.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Apologies for a very, very kind of slight delay. Very, very happy to be here, and thank you to David and the DIT team. What I'll be talking about in the next roughly 9 minutes is about, in particular, 2 of the interventions that the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport have effectively set up. First of all, and next slide, David. Digital Catapult is an innovation organization of about 250 people, and it is part of what we call a Catapult network, 9 organizations in the UK, which have been designed and built specifically to intervene at the translation from invention to innovation and to support SMEs in very specific technology sectors. So we are in Digital Catapult, and we primarily cover digital technologies, AI, blockchain, distributed systems, 5G, IoT, and immersive technologies. But similar to us, we have a satellite applications catapult. By its name, it's very clear what they do. Also, we have a compound semiconductors catapult, applications catapult, based in Wales, primarily focusing on supporting the technology in the optoelectronics and innovation in that space, as well as a certain swathe of other catapults like high value manufacturing catapults, with 7 centers across the UK. And offshore renewables energy catapult. The mission of the catapults is primarily to support and accelerate the intervention, innovation, translation into products and economic growth in the UK. Next slide, please. As part of this activity from us, one of our key activity areas in the Digital Catapult, it is the support and intervention in the telecommunications sector, and in particular in the 5G. We have been very heavily involved and invested significantly in the 5G adoption phase between 2017 and 2022. And at this moment in time, we are leveraging that particular capability to support the government's ambition in the diversification space. And specifically in this space, we are currently running, together with Ofcom, the telecommunications regulator in the UK, we are running the Smart RAN Open Network Interoperability Center, which is fundamentally a joint program for introduction of open network products. This space, as we all know, it's extremely complex, both from a market perspective, but also from a technology development perspective. So with Sonic, we were looking to for tools and levers that will enable bringing together of different vendor combinations in the spirit of the open networks, and starting with Open RAN. And one of the levers that we effectively found and we are exploiting is building a very extensive and expansive facility with both indoor and outdoor testing capabilities, focusing specifically to integration and interoperability testing of Open RAN products in the mid TRL ranges, so mid technology readiness levels, between technology readiness level 5 and 7. And we are doing this together and in partnership with the industry. We anticipate, and the doors are open for all companies of all sizes, for the products that they currently have in the product development stage. We have engaged before with 8 companies. In June 2021, we demonstrated with Mavenir, Benetel, FNet, Fluido, and Radisys, together with Foxconn radios as well, a full integration of 3 Open RAN chain products. But at the same time, we are currently running the second cohort and about to launch the third cohort of companies that will engage with us. So what is Sonic? What does it do? Where it is located? Next slide, please, David. It is located right in the middle of that product development stage. So there will be some companies and labs and activities which will be doing early stage single technology block developments, and as well as there will be labs, both government-based, like the UK Telecommunications Laboratory, UKTL, as well as individual mobile operator testing labs, field testing labs, which will exist on the right-hand side. Sonic specifically is using interoperability testing within both fields and lab-based environments to effectively mature or help the products from an interoperability and integration testing to be ready to go to the right-hand side towards more of a potential for deployment by operators of all sizes, both from enterprise, private network, small scale, to large-scale national mobile network operators. Next slide. The way that Sonic effectively works is organized on building a facility, a very extensive facility. It's an investment of about £6.5 million purely on the hardware for both lab and field testing, indoor and outdoor capabilities. And that facility is being used in a cyclic way in what we call cohorts of companies, each one composed of at least 6 different vendors with at least 10 different products in different combinations in order to create effectively a G node B chain, and in that way effectively pushing for the testing of the interoperability against both O-RAN Alliance specifications and of course 3GPP standards. As I said, cohort 1 is currently under full execution and it will finish in November. Cohort 2 has been announced about a month ago and will finish in March next year. And very, very soon, towards mid-October, we'll be launching a call for companies to participate in cohort 3 with a view to effectively bring different products and into the open, neutral, and independent testing of the Sonic labs. Next slide, please. Forgive me because of the time, both of these are very, very major interventions. The Sonic Labs intervention is a funding of about £15 million for the first 2 years. And UKTIN, the UK Telecommunications Innovation Network, is another investment for about £10 million over 3 years. Each one of these two requires a full kind of introduction, but I'm giving very, very briefly in the remaining 2 minutes, David, very conscious of time, an overview of the expectation by the government of what the UK Telecommunication Innovation Network will effectively do. And as you see in the slides, there is specifically the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport press release, which is looking at the UK Telecommunication Innovation Network to be a body that brings together academia, industry, as well as other organizations operating in the telecommunication space and addressing both the near-term diversification challenges in a coordinated way, but more importantly, trying to bring together a mid to long-term input into the mid to long-term R&D strategy and telecoms capabilities that the UK, like the rest of the world, needs to develop in order to meet the needs for a digital economy and a digital future that we are already set up. In order to do this, what the UKTIN consortium, there is a winning consortium composed from Digital Catapult, which is also the lead of this project, with Cambridge Wireless, West Midlands 5G, and University of Bristol. Next slide. And in order to address the objectives and the ambitions of the government for this new coordinating and convening body of the UK telecommunications ecosystem, effectively these are the key delivery elements of that. There will be a very active following on the footsteps of the UK 5G, excellent footsteps of the UK 5G. We will be collecting data on what, where, when, and by whom are R&D activities and capabilities being delivered in the UK, and keep a continuous look into that. We will be working with both incoming and existing industry players in the UK to signpost towards R&D capabilities in order to build further this R&D capability in the UK in telecommunications. We will be bringing together and convening a very broad and impartial sway of senior participants from the whole of the UK ecosystem, from optoelectronics to network management. So it's not only focusing on mobile networks, to effectively provide a knowledgeable and curated input into government policy making across the different departments, not just to the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport. And also we will be starting to work with the ecosystem for that specific challenge that exists in the UK, but also in the rest of Europe, of translating and supporting people in the translation between invention and innovation, between invention and a product reaching the market. So this is the ambition. The UKTIN will be launching on the 1st of October, and please keep your eyes and ears open and look to engage with us. The contact point for us out of this webinar will be David and his team, but we are very, very happy to speak to anyone in our position as an ecosystem convener towards with a primary focus on UK telecommunications research, development and innovation capability build. Thank you very much, and passing back to David.
Thank you very much, Dritan. And I think you can see from the technical complexity and competence which Dritan has just expressed that the government aspirations to target the diversification challenge in the telecoms network is getting some real momentum and real activity through the sonic test beds and through the work of the Digital Catapult. And that the money which has already been spent is actually having positive effects, with the cadres of companies able to go through and get engaged in the process of testing, showing interoperability. So thank you very much, Dritan. I'm now going to hand over to Tom Kirkham from Innovate UK, who's going to talk a little bit more about the overlap between the innovation landscape in our academic institutions and our industry in the UK and some of the activities which happen there. So Tom, if I can hand over to you, and I think we need to flip forward a few slides to get to your part of the presentation.
Thank you, David. So my name's Tom Kirkham. I'm an innovation lead at Innovate UK. My role is to support industry and academia in the development of innovative products, particularly around future network technologies and also technologies which cross over into that domain. Innovate UK can be generally seen as the UK's innovation agency. We invest in small to medium enterprises all the way up to larger prime companies to develop new services and technologies, connecting businesses and academia to drive effectively economic growth. Next slide, please. Innovate UK are part of UKRI, which stands for UK Research and Innovation. We sit alongside research councils such as the Environmental Research Council, NERC, Economic Research Council, Science and Technology Facility Council, and all in all is 7 research councils which span various different areas of academic research. Our role is higher up the TRL levels, particularly targeted towards businesses, but we do fund business and research-based projects. Sorry. Next slide, please. So here's a quick overview of what we've invested since we've been set up in 2007. So we've invested 4.6 billion into various different innovative projects, and we've from that got a match from industry of 7.5 billion, generating over 20 billion in added value to the UK economy. So there's a clear economic model around how we operate, and that's how we our sort of modus operandi funding research and development. Next slide, please. So as we go on to the next slide, we'll be looking at some specific examples of competitions that we run within Innovate UK. So we'll start off with Innovate Loans, which is one of our newer competitions where we provide loans to help companies with late stage R&D challenges where sometimes it can be hard for them to get either private investment or investment from other sources. These loans are not repayable. So for the first 3 years, you don't have to pay anything back, and then the payments start after the 3rd year. We do a competitive interest rate on them, and the whole idea is to try and sort of span that chasm between R&D and getting to the market. Next slide, please. So I think the next slide will be looking at specific challenges linking research with innovation. Let's wait for it to come up. If not, I'll just carry on talking. So we do.
It's the knowledge transfer partnership slide if you're not seeing the slides, Tom.
All right, sorry. Yeah. So KTP's knowledge transfer partnerships are fully funded, well, 70% funded schemes with universities and companies. So the university present the staff to the company, and they carry out a specific project to drive innovation within the organisation. Next slide, please. So I can only see KTP, but David, what's the next slide? If you don't mind.
Innovate UK Edge.
So Edge is our consultancy scheme. So all Innovate UK funded projects are associated with the Edge partner. That Edge partner is an experienced consultant in various different areas, whether it be business scale up or hardware development, and they help the companies deliver on the projects. Next slide, please. Sorry, David.
Global.
Global, yeah. So the global one, at Innovate UK, we provide our national contact point for the UK's involvement in Horizon Europe. We also provide our Horizon Europe guarantee due to issues currently around association. We also run global challenges within various different countries. So, for instance, we're taking a consortium out to Japan in November to look at 5G technologies. And if you go on to the next slide, which should be a sort of flying in feature, is about Celtic Next, which was mentioned early on by Simon from DCMS. So we're running this sort of collaboration around Celtic Next, which is the Eureka project. It launched last week, and it closes on the 21st of October. And that's a great opportunity for business and academia to partner across the EU to work on innovative projects. And I can see the next slide, which is investor partnerships, which is another scheme where we bring private sector investment in the form of venture capital into businesses, partnered with a grant. So we water down the amount of private investment companies have to leverage. And the whole idea behind this is to help companies in the UK scale in the longer term. Okay, next slide. Is the next slide the end slide, or is there anything else?
Smart grants.
Okay, so smart grants are our sort of catch-all scheme. We run this every quarter, up to £20 million. We invest £25 million. That is a wide-ranging set of challenges, so businesses are welcome to apply into any area of innovation into a smart grant. We've had quite a few in the telecommunications sector, but any other sectors merging over telecommunications or any other areas are welcome in smart grants. We've also recently launched a fast start innovation set of open projects as well, similar to Smart, which fund at 100%. They're targeted again at startups and SMEs to get funding going within them. Next slide, please.
SBRI.
So I think this is our last one. SBRI is our business partnership funding, where we partner up, say, with a public sector organisation such as Sellafield, who manage a large nuclear site within the UK, and there we fund businesses up to 100% again to do specific business challenges facing that organisation. So in the case of Sellafield, it was identification and processing of nuclear waste. Thank you. So I think the final slide, is that the next one?
It is. Yeah, that's
okay,
your thank you slide and link.
Yeah, so the link there is our link to our competitions page. I've tried to shorten it using one of those URL shorteners. Within that, there's about 40 currently open competitions. You can see within those competitions, there's various different domains. We've currently got one open on high altitude platform services, which links into telecommunications. That closes on the 5th of October. There's always new competitions going along all the time. Please get in contact with me if you need any further information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tom. And I would just make a comment here that the funding which is available from the UK government via DCMS, some of which goes through the programmes which Tristan talked about, and the funding which comes through UKRI and through Innovate, is for innovation to happen in the UK. Companies do not have to be headquartered in the UK. As long as you're carrying out a significant proportion of the work in the UK, you can participate in these funds. We like these competitions and these activities to be collaborative, because we know it's the collaboration between industries at different parts of the supply chain and the academic expertise that we have, which produces innovation and produces exciting results. So a lot of these are UK landed funds, but they are open to all the companies across Europe who are interested in doing business in the UK. You can come to the Department of International Trade and talk to us about how we can do that. One of the places where you may want to collaborate in the UK would be one of our high-tech science parks, and just why we allow teams to come together to show the slides, which at the moment I'm only seeing a part of a slide. I'll be handing over to John Leake to talk a little bit more about the SciTech Daresbury campus and some of the support which is available at that site. John, over to you.
David, thanks very much indeed. Good morning, everyone. Delighted to be with you today and to talk about the opportunities within the UK. Next slide, please. So SciTech Daresbury is a collaborative campus, and alongside really a business community for technology companies. I'm John Leake. I'm the Business Growth Director at SciTech Daresbury. Next slide, please. So SciTech Daresbury is a national research and innovation campus. What exactly does that mean? That's where we are co-locating a critical mass of technology companies alongside some world-class science and technology facilities, which I'll talk about in a little more detail. We're an enterprise zone, so identified by UK government as a place for growth and development, particularly for innovative technology companies. We're managed through a public-private joint venture, and one of those joint venture partners is the Science and Technology Facilities Council, part of UKRI, the organisation that Innovate UK sits in that Tom was referring to earlier. And I'll talk about their activities in a bit more detail. Next slide, please. So where is SciTech Daresbury? We're located in the northwest of England. You may have just sort of missed the map of the UK off in that bottom right-hand corner. We're equidistant between Liverpool and Manchester, so two major northern cities, about 30 kilometres from the centre of both of those. But actually, we're ideally located locally, nationally, and internationally. So we are 20 minutes drive from two international airports, Liverpool and Manchester airports. Certainly pre-COVID times, they serve more European business destinations than you would get from Heathrow. So actually a great location for European companies. Less than 2 hours train journey to London. I think it's about an hour and 50 minutes to get into the centre of London. But also when you're thinking about attracting the right talent and skills to the business, we've got about 4 million people in employment that are living within a 1 hour commute. Next slide, please. So at the SciTech Daresbury campus, we've got 150 technology companies, ranging from startups and SMEs all the way through to some well-known international names here. IBM is a key strategic partner on the campus and has been for about 20 years, focused particularly around data analytics, high-performance computing, AI, and more recently into quantum computing technologies. Companies like Hitachi and Atos have moved onto the site, but then a company like Applied Materials, one of the global leaders in providing engineering services and solutions into the semiconductor industry, actually is present on the site through an acquisition of one of our companies. So our sector focus is across a variety of areas, including digital technologies, but also advanced engineering, materials, life sciences, and healthcare technologies. And alongside that, we've developed a number of specific cluster-based programs and support mechanisms for companies in digital technologies, space technologies, partnering with the likes of the European Space Agency, the UK Space Agency, and the satellite applications catapult that Dritan was referencing earlier, as well as into health tech. Key part for us is around growth and driving the growth, accelerating the growth of our companies. They're growing on average 25% per year in terms of sales growth, but also is around collaboration. So typically 70 to 80% of our companies will be collaborating with at least one other organization on the campus. It may be another business, it may be the Science and Technology Facilities Council, or some of their university partners that are based on the campus. Next slide, please. So just to give you a sort of a snapshot of the companies that are based here and the sort of areas that they're sort of covering. As you can see, very, very diverse. When you've got 150 companies, then they've got great breadth of expertise. As I say, from AI, data analytics, mobile, IoT technologies, cyber security. We'll be getting our first international quantum computing technology company arriving on the campus within the next month. But obviously some of those sort of digital-based technologies then being transferred and taken into areas like healthcare. So we have a major partnership with the NHS to actually have an activity on the campus focused around bringing innovative technologies into different parts of the NHS, but also into the advanced manufacturing sector as well. A growing cluster of companies around industrial digitization technologies. Next slide, please. So I talked about UK research and innovation. Tom has already touched on it, but it drives the research and innovation strategy for the UK, has a combined budget of £7 billion. The Science and Technology Facilities Council is a key component within that, with a budget of £600 million, and particularly supporting the UK industry and academia through provision of large-scale scientific facilities, the sort of thing that a country will only have one of. One of those activities, next slide, please, is the Hartree Centre. So this is the activities that are focused around tackling industry challenges, utilising high-performance computing, big data analytics, AI, and quantum computing technologies. Last year, it was part of a £200 million government investment into the Hartree National Centre for Digital Innovation programme, a key initiative to work with industrial partners to introduce particularly AI and quantum computing technologies into their businesses and across a variety of sectors, helping them in terms of developing proof of concept, proof of prototype, utilizing those technologies. And that center is part of a collaboration with trusted partners, and that includes particularly people like IBM that I referenced earlier, but also the likes of Atos, NVIDIA, and Intel, as well as university partners. So you'll see reference to the Virtual Engineering Center. That's part of the University of Liverpool, which is a long-standing partner on the site. Next slide, please. As I say, our key focus for Cytec Derby is about growing our companies, growing the business and supporting their growth across a variety of areas in terms of enabling getting the right talent, the right facilities, the right investment and funding into their business. So that's why a strapline of Home for Life is key. We've seen companies grow from a small office through to having their own building or a floor of a building on the campus. So we provide that sort of scale of opportunities where companies can naturally grow without having to relocate. Next slide, please. And that's part of our master plan vision. Currently, we have about 2,000 people based on the site. Our vision over the next 20 years is to grow and develop the site to around about 10,000 people, all focused around science and technology, but including universities, including research council activities through STFC, and a variety of technology companies, from very small to very large. Next slide, please. We have a soft landing program, which provides a free hot desk, a free base on the campus for a 12-month period, really, as companies start to investigate and identify opportunities in the UK market. But more importantly, is about getting connections through the Cytec Darsbury network to partners, organizations that they can work with, that may be potential customers. It might be university relationships. STFC has strategic partnerships with about 15 universities across the UK, including Oxford, Cambridge, and so on. But also actually support from the Cytec Darsbury team in terms of maybe helping them identify particular talent needs that they have, the sort of skills that they require, and that where they can bring local expertise to support the business. Next slide, please. There are also, alongside some of the programs that Tom talked about through UKRI and Dritan talked about through the catapults and through UKTIN, there are also local support programs, and just probably highlight two there, the Single Investment Fund and I2F2, the Inward Investment Facilitation Fund. So those are local grant funding programs that are available for companies that are locating into the Liverpool City region where Cytec Darsbury is based. And final slide. So just to conclude, Cytec Darsbury, an internationally renowned science and technology site. You've got a critical mass of technology companies that are collaborative by nature. So a great place if you're wanting to get set up in the UK and find the right networks for organizations that you can partner with. World-class expertise and facilities in the likes of high-performance computing, data analytics, AI, and say now approaching into the future with quantum computing technologies. And alongside sensors and instrumentation, having touched on the work that STFC does with the likes of CERN and some of their major science facilities. It's a home for life. It's a place that you can naturally and easily grow. And there are a range of local and regional support options. David, thanks very much indeed. I'll hand back to you.
Thank you very much, John. And for those of you who were in the call earlier on, you'll have seen that our next speaker, Mick Goulding, had to leave. Mick works for Cellnex, a large telecoms infrastructure provider, and he's involved in coordinating a number of projects in interesting logistics areas. So what I will do, Sandra, is I will walk through the slides that Mick was going to present to us, just to give a flavour of the message, because I think it's an important end to that. So if you could go to the first Cellnex slide, please. So during this presentation today, we've been looking to show you how the government has set ambitions to address our telecommunication markets diversification challenge, how we've committed £250 million to that. We have explained why and what the government's doing to go forward, including some projects with international collaboration. Dritan has told us about some of the lab work which is already in place to test and challenge providers' equipment to see if it really is as interoperable as claimed, but also to provide feedback into those companies so that they can work on the challenge. So we've got the technical expertise there as well. And there's another cohort coming up in October, so there's an opportunity for engagement there. We then heard from Tom about Innovate UK and how some of the academic funding is used to transition capability out of the academic institutions in the UK to industry. And then John has just told us a little bit about a landing site, which is a good example of how we operate in the UK, where we co-locate scientific capability with industrial capability with a support package to help companies come to the UK, get set up, get going, and get engaged as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So our final speaker was due to be from the Spanish company Cellnex. Unfortunately, Mick had to leave, so I'm going to walk through the slides. I'm not a Cellnex employee, although I have worked with them for a number of years as they develop their UK footprint. So this will be fairly surface, but I think will give an indication of the sort of journey and the sort of activities that companies have successfully achieved in the UK. Next slide, please. So I suspect most of you have heard of Cellnex if you haven't worked with them already. They're a European-wide operator of telecoms infrastructure. They came out of Spain and have expanded through a series of mergers, acquisitions, and joint ventures across Europe, and you can see the countries they operate in. They initially came to the UK through some acquisitions of tower infrastructure, and were therefore part of our regulated telecoms infrastructure from the start of their operation. But they made it very clear to us that they wanted to be part of our science and technology agenda, and they were keen to show off some of the capability they had around transport systems, around logistics, around small cells, and around hosting shared networks, and that worked very well with local municipalities in other parts of Europe. So we were very keen to engage in this because it connects very well with our desire to diversify, to reduce the cost of operation, and to spread networks to hard to reach parts of the UK which are underserved by the current network provision. Next slide, please. One of the things that Cellnex has been working in the UK on with us and with various partners around the country is the private networks for particular industrial applications. We have a number of challenges in the UK which we're looking to address around ports and logistics, around the energy infrastructure, in manufacturing, smart cities, and particularly some of our rail network areas. And Cellnex have been able to bring experience from a number of different parts of Europe and use that in the UK. So you can see that they have capability in a number of different industry verticals for private networks, and they have some key names who they are working with across those areas. We're going to be looking at some of the UK specific ones. And again, I won't be able to give technical details because clearly I'm not a company employee. But next slide, please. I think most of us on the call will be aware that private networks is a growing application for particularly 5G networks, as it's the capabilities of 5G standalone style networks are very useful for private networks, particularly the low latency aspects in some of these fields. And there is a considerable growth in this area. And we expect that to continue to grow in multiple domains and multiple industry verticals. Next slide, please. I think I'm not going to talk about Industry 4.0. I think that's something we'd need a specialization of Cellnex for, so my apologies on that. Let's move forward a slide. So a little bit about what we mean by a private network. A private network essentially is a ring-fenced site within a particular, in this case, a customer private environment that provides services for that particular customer application area. We often think of it being constrained to a site. It's not necessarily constrained to a single site. It can be across multiple sites, but the most common form is a single site. And by having a private network, it guarantees that the bandwidth, the latency, and the number of devices available on the network for that particular client is supported, that the quality of service is supported and enabled. Often these sites would not have provision by a national provider, or the provision by the national provider wouldn't provide all the services that are required. So by building up a private network, the customer can ensure they have exactly the integrity of the system that they need. If you look down the bullet points on that side, you'll see the last bullet point is that access to spectrum is very important, and increasingly across Europe, access to licensed spectrum for private networks is less connected to the mobile network operators, the national mobile network operators, and available through local and geographically constrained licenses in various ways. And we have mechanisms for that in the UK. Next slide, please. And the next slide, please. So there's a variety of claims here about the productivity of private networks. I think all of us have seen some value come from this. I don't have any background to these numbers, so I'm going to ask to move to the next slide, please. And the next slide, please. Apologies, I'm skipping forward through the case studies, that some of the business case numbers there, but those are all from external consultancy reports which are available elsewhere. So let's talk particularly about an activity that Cellnex has carried out in the UK, and this is around the development at Bristol Port. This was part of a 5G testbed programme which was previously sponsored by the Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sport to promote the applications and use of 5G. So they had some government money and they had some local partners to work with, in this case the local authority, the West of England Combined Authority it's called, the local port, plus some of the telecoms providers, Atacor, Airspan and ADVA, and a drones company called Unmanned Life, a UK drones company. So across this project, they were able to look at the first sort of obvious problem for a port is asset tracking. Where are containers, where are the vehicles, where are the people across the port, and to provide a continuous and updated process for making sure that everything's where it should be and it's well controlled. It's a dangerous environment, so critical communications very important in these areas. It's a capitally intensive environment, so predictive maintenance is really critical. And there's a lot of different organisations interfacing with the port as different vessels come in, as different operators utilise the facility. So there's a lot of requirements for good connectivity, for automation, and for efficient and reliable operations. So in this project, they were able to combine a variety of different technologies together using Cellnex's capability as an infrastructure company as the backbone to support this capability. And I think there's nothing else I want to say on that. So let's move on to the next slide. So that would be the end of the presentation. And my apologies for being somewhat surface on that without Mick himself. That's a little bit difficult to do, but I think that gives you a flavour of the fact that using our funded capability from DCMS, we're able to enable real projects in real environments, bring together partnerships of different companies to test and to operate and to produce real world applications of telecommunications for private networks and to innovate in new areas and new capabilities. So in wrap up, just like to remind everybody that if you want to post any questions, to please put those into the chat onto the side as we go forward. I'll go to those next. We have a variety of different ways of engaging, and I've posted some links as various presenters have moved forwards, have been going forward. So some of the links from the slides and some other links I've posted there, so there's more information for you to look at. We will be sending out a follow-up email at the end of this presentation. Please do respond to that. We're looking for feedback on the presentation and how well it's met your expectations, but also that's an opportunity for you to come back with further questions offline when you've digested what we've said. And if that will come back to myself and to Sandra, who's our host today, and we will distribute those to the speakers as we go forward. Now then, I'm just going to turn to the chat to see if there's any questions. Do give me a moment. Right, so John, thank you for posting about Daresbury. The next Horizon Europe Smart Networks call has been posted. Thank you for that. And the national contact points for Daresbury UK. So I don't have any other questions which I can see in the chat just yet. Let me just click on that.
Everyone's just come through about, is the recording going to be posted somewhere?
I believe so. I think that was the comment that Sandra made at the beginning of the presentation, that we would be sharing the recording with everybody who's registered, or a link to the recording. Okay. Okay. So of our speakers who've left on, would you like to any of you like to make any closing comments or pick up any other points that have come through in the presentation before we wrap up? I'm just going to go across in the order that we spoke. Simon, I'm not sure if you're still with us. I don't know if there's any other comments you'd like to pick up with.
No, I think it's been a fantastic presentation from everyone. I hope all the questions have been answered by all of us. And if the audience have got any feedback or would like anything specific answered, I'm sure they can either go through yourself or direct to one of the emails. Thanks.
Thank you, Simon. Tom, if I can come to you, any last comments?
No last comments from me. Just feel free to get in touch about this Celtic Next programme, which is open now and closed on the 21st of October. Thank you.
John, anything else from you? Sorry, John, you're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, happy obviously to have conversations with any of the people on the call today. You know, even if they're kind of just at that exploratory stage, something we can help do in terms of getting them connected to the right people. Yeah, happy to help in any way. I think you missed Dritan after as well.
Dritan, I'm looking across the audio appearing on my screen, and I'll talk to Dritan last. Thank you, thank you, John. Dritan, any last comments?
Same as all of the other speakers, the UK government is quite serious about the diversification and open networks. It's a long journey, but there is collaboration and funding opportunities. Please get in touch.
Well, thank you very much. So thank you everybody for attending. Please do reach out to myself and to Sandra after this with any follow-up comments, but I will wrap up the webinar there. Thank you all very much for joining.